Have you ever had someone cross your mind, a name, a face, a laugh you haven't heard in years? Suddenly, you're flooded with memories. Not just the good ones, but the ones tinged with regret, with "I should have called," or "I meant to write." We shared everything: birthdays, breakups, big dreams. But then, life started pulling us in different directions. Jobs, marriages, kids, moves. At first, we still called each other. Then, it was just birthday cards. And then, silence. Not because anything went wrong, we just got busy, and I always figured I'd reach out next week, and next week turned into years. You begin to realize just how precious time really is, not in a panic kind of way, but with clarity. Like when you look at an old photograph and remember who took it, what you were wearing, and the sound of that moment. I was cleaning out a drawer, one of those junk drawers we all have, when I found an old photo of us. It was yellowing around the edges, creased from being handled too many times. And that letter you never sent, it might still have time. There we were, both 28, sitting on the back of his old pickup truck, laughing like we didn't have a care in the world. What matters is honesty. Just say what you wish you'd said. Start with "I've been thinking about you," or "I miss your voice," or even "I'm sorry You'd be amazed what happens when you let the words out. And something in me cracked open. I sat down at the kitchen table, pulled out a notepad, and started writing. I didn't even know if he was still living at that address, but I knew one thing: I had to try, because carrying around regret is heavier than most of us realize. And letting it go, even just a little, is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself. Not a polished letter, not even a coherent one, just feelings, just memories. That's how it was with Gerald. But by the time I finished, it was honest, it was me, and for the first time in decades, I felt light. Not because I had all the right words, but because I finally did what I'd been meaning to do for years. We reached out. It's not about what you'll get back, it's about what you'll give yourself. Peace, closure, and maybe even a second chance. Every year on his birthday, I'd think I should write to him. Every year, I didn't, and the guilt sat quietly on my shelf, right next to the birthday card I bought and never sent. Maybe it's an old friend, a sibling you grew apart from, or even someone you never got to say goodbye to properly. For me, it was a friend named Gerald. We met in our 20s, thick as thieves, always joking that we'd grow old on the same park bench, grumbling about the price of coffee and politics. But we also carry the power to change our story, even if it's just by writing a letter. Now, let me ask you this. How many next weeks have you let slip by? I used to tell myself it was too late, that maybe he wouldn't remember me, or worse, that he'd moved on. But the truth is, I was afraid of what I might say, afraid of what I'd feel. So I did what many of us do. Nothing. I kept thinking about writing him a letter, not an email, not a message on social media, a real, handwritten letter, something with weight, something that says, "I still care," someone you remember with warmth, and maybe a little ache. But I didn't. I procrastinated for over 20 years. You know, there's something funny about getting older. Maybe you've got someone like that, someone you think about while watering the plants, or when a song comes on the radio. It took a simple moment to change everything for me. That first page was messy. I crossed things out, rewrote lines, and even cried a little. That's what I want to talk to you about today. Not just my story, but your story too. Because connection doesn't have an expiration date. Writing it, putting your heart on paper, might just be the most healing thing you can do. And don't worry if you're not a good writer. That doesn't matter. You know, when I finally mailed that letter to Gerald, I didn't know if it would find him. As we get older, we carry a lot with his memories, joys, regrets, what ifs. Let's talk more about that. After I dropped the letter into the mailbox, I stood there for a long moment, staring at that little red flag and thinking, well, that's that. I wasn't expecting a reply. You opened the door not just to the other person, but to yourself. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The handwriting was shaky, but I recognized it immediately. It was Gerald. No more rehearsing conversations in my head. No more guilt eating away quietly during long car rides or in the moments before sleep. Just speed. But I've thought about you every birthday since 1992. Honest, he told me about his wife passing away 3 years ago, about his daughter moving overseas, about the days that felt too quiet, too long. No memory is too dusty to bring back to life, and no person is too far gone to hear that they mattered to you. We even talked on the phone once. It was a little awkward at first. We joked about how old we sounded, but once we got going, it was like no time had passed at all. We talked about music, our grandkids, and how strange it feels to be on the other side of 70. He said he'd been meaning to write me, too, for years. He even still had a postcard I sent him back in the 80s, tucked in a book on his nightstand. Maybe it's an old friend, maybe it's your brother, or a cousin, or even an old neighbor who always meant to keep in touch. Maybe the silence between you has lasted so long that it feels In fact, I had already made peace with the idea that I might never hear from Gerald again. The letter was anti about getting something, but it was about letting go of something I'd been carrying for far too long. For what? I don't even know. Maybe for the right time. Maybe for life to slow down. But life doesn't wait. That friendships fade. That everyone's too busy. That it's normal to let go of people as time goes on. And yes, life changes. But the heart remembers. And the heart doesn't care how many years it's been. Or open that dusty drawer where the old cards live. Something in you shifts. Maybe you sit with your thoughts for a while. You don't have to write the perfect thing. You just have to begin. Fear that reaching out might stir up emotions we've buried. But the longer we wait, the heavier it gets. Or, I found a photo of us the other day and wanted to say hello. Or even simply, I hope you're doing well. I've missed you. And what we don't say builds walls between us and others, and even inside ourselves. That letter, that effort, still gives you peace. It allows you to say what needed to be said, to close a chapter with grace instead of regret. It's a bridge between who you were and who you are now. It's a reminder that love and friendship don't have expiration dates. That reaching out, no matter how late, is still reaching out. And we would have missed the chance to reconnect, to share stories and laughter, to remember who we were before the world rushed in. And I think we both realized that in those moments, sitting alone with pen and paper. But something interesting happens when you let yourself be vulnerable. And then, 2 weeks later, a letter came in the mail. He started his letter with this: I didn't think I'd ever hear from you again. I sat at the kitchen table again, holding that letter like it was made of glass. It was short. We both waited. Here's the thing, I could have kept waiting. We both could have. Procrastination isn't always about laziness. Sometimes it's fear in disguise. Fear of rejection. Fear that too much time has passed. What I've learned is that no apology comes too late. Since then, Gerald and I have written each other a few more times. That one letter opened a door I thought had long since closed. You might be sitting there thinking of someone right now. I promise you it isn't. You don't need a grand message. You don't have to explain every single thing. Just a few lines. Just a moment of reaching out. Maybe it's something like, I was just thinking about the time we... You might be surprised how many people are just waiting for someone else to go first. We get told that growing older means growing apart. You still have time. You still have words. And believe me when I say those words matter more than you think. Even if the other person doesn't respond. Even if they've moved away, or you find out they've passed on. Sometimes, just writing it down, whether or not you ever send it, can bring you the clarity and closure you've ever been waiting for. Don't underestimate what a letter can do. It's not just paper and ink. So maybe, tonight after dinner, you take out a notepad. And once you do, once that pen hits the page, let's keep going. I think a lot about that moment, the one where I almost didn't write, where I nearly put the pen down and said, what's the point? And maybe you've been there too, staring at the phone, or holding a blank card, or even just replaying old conversations in your head, feeling like it's all too far gone to fix. But there's deep peace in knowing you've reached out, that you made the effort, that your heart stayed open. There's dignity in that, and there's healing, too. There's only now. Don't wait until you've figured out what to say, or until you feel brave. Just start, because courage isn't loud. It's quiet. It looks like a shaky pen in your hand. It sounds like a whisper in the back of your mind saying, go on. But I believe it belongs more to us. Now, because we've lived long enough to know how rare and beautiful it is. We know that friends don't grow on trees. That kindness doesn't cost much, but it means the world. Maybe they read it twice and set it down quietly, holding on to the words like a warm cup of tea. You may never see their reaction, but that letter could be the light in someone's day. It could be the thing they didn't even know they needed. That the people who mattered 20, 30, even 50 years ago, they still matter now. But here's something I've learned. Something that may surprise you. We don't just regret what went wrong. And maybe all it takes is a letter, one small letter, to remind someone that they're remembered, that they're loved, that they're still part of your journey. We build these walls in our heads, but when you reach out with honesty, people feel it. They may not say it, but often they're just as grateful as you are that someone finally spoke up. Don't let silence become the last word. If there's someone you've been meaning to write to speak to reach out, to do it. Not tomorrow, not when I feel ready. Just now, even if it's just a few lines scribbled on the back of an envelope, even if it takes you a week to finish, even if all it says is, "You crossed my mind, and I hope you're well." And sometimes, it circles back to us when we need it most. We often regret what we never tried to make right. That letter to Gerald didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the years we lost or the moments we missed. But you'll have done your part. You'll have lived with heart, and that kind of living, that's the kind you never regret. Begin with the truth. Begin with what's in your heart. Begin with "I miss you." Begin with "I'm sorry." Begin with "I remember," and you have so much to gain. But it did something just as powerful. It gave us a way to say, "I still see you. You still matter to me." We may not always get the happy ending. Share your story in the comments. Tell us about someone you've been thinking of. Maybe this is the push you needed to pick up that pen. And if it is, I'm so glad you're here. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had never written. Would we still be sitting in silence, both thinking about the other but too unsure to speak up? How many years would have gone by while we waited for the right time? The truth is, there is no perfect moment. So if you've got someone on your mind, Arvin, just one name, don't wait for the stars to align. And if you're afraid of what you might stir up, let me tell you, most people are kinder than we imagine. Sometimes, people won't be able to respond, and that's okay. Maybe they've moved away emotionally or mentally. Maybe time has changed them. We often think of connection as something that belongs to the young. You have so much to offer. Wisdom, humor, a story no one else can tell but you. Imagine for a moment that you wrote that letter today. Picture the person reading it. Maybe they smile, maybe they cry. Because when we put love into words, it doesn't disappear. It lives on. It reaches out. So here's what I want to leave you with. Don't let the fear of being too late keep you from being brave. That might be enough to change everything. And if you're not sure where to begin, that's okay too. Because those simple beginnings, they often lead to the most meaningful endings. So go on, write the letter. You have nothing to lose, except a little regret. And if this touched something in you, I'd love to hear about it. If this video gave you something to think about, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe for more gentle, thoughtful reflections just like this one. And above all, remember, it's never too late. Not for kindness, not for honesty, not for connection. You still have time. You still have words. You still have heart. Here's to living your most meaningful years with courage, with clarity, and with love. Sweet dreams. And thank you for listening.